Hello, and welcome to the Biz Kidz Podcast. I'm JD Rabali, your host, and today we have a special guest with us in the nonprofit world. We have Dawn Belamarich. Did I say that right?
Perfect.
And Dawn Belamarich is the CEO at the Collaboratory in Fort Myers, helping nonprofits throughout Southwest Florida. And we're excited to have her today. And a lot of people say, well, hold on, I thought this was an entrepreneurship podcast. Well, if you've never been in the nonprofit world or kind of don't understand it, you have to be an entrepreneur mind thinking to kind of move forward with a nonprofit idea. And so I think there's a lot of the things that we share in entrepreneurship with nonprofits. And so we're going to hear the story from Dawn. But Dawn, to start off, we always like to ask for your 60-second pitch. So tell us who you are and what you do.
60 seconds. Okay. So I am Dawn Belamarich, as you mentioned. I am the president here at Collaboratory, which is our regional community foundation in downtown Fort Myers. I am a Jersey girl by nature, so I am from the great state of New Jersey, and I have been really blessed to have a lot of opportunities in the business space, but my most recent and the longest was in addiction and mental health treatment. So I have a master's in mental health counseling and criminology, and I also have a doctorate in business and leadership. So whole gamut from helping all the way through business and leadership. And I moved to Florida about 3 years ago. I moved here 3 days before Hurricane Ian. So very interesting timing. I am married, have a husband and one fur baby, Manny. And I have 3 younger brothers. I completed my first triathlon this Sunday. I'm trying to do an Ironman at the end of the year.
Wow.
And this is the same energy that everybody gets every day from Dawn. So what you are seeing is what the experience is. And I hope to bring that to Southwest Florida.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for being on here with us today. So as a kid, let's go and kind of go back in time a little bit. Did you ever have that entrepreneur spirit as a kid and have a side hustle you were trying to make some money?
Yes, I was the oldest of 4, so I have 3 younger brothers. And I didn't think of it as a side hustle at the time. I thought of it as innovation and taking up time. So lemonade stand, the go-to lemonade stand that we had out front. I do remember at one point my mom had a paper route. So we would get very creative with how we were selling papers and having a paper route. I think for me, even outside of the little business of entrepreneurialism, it was really this idea of solving problems and thinking outside of the box to do it. And I do feel like maybe it was oldest child or maybe it was the entrepreneurial spirit. My mind was always set in that direction of something's broken. How do we fix it?
So when you were in the paper business, did you have to actually go out and collect the money from the papers you sold?
Yeah, so I don't want to take all the credit because my mom was the hard worker in the business. Maybe that's why I'm delegating to this day. But yeah, we did. I mean, my mom literally, had a paper route overnight where she packaged the papers up, rubber band all the way through. And it was a collection every Thursday. The money was in the box to collect. So it was a team effort. But I can't take all of her energy because she was doing the hard work. We were just the support staff.
Well, lemonade is definitely a go-to, and we have 2 young ladies that are doing lemonade that do a lot of our events.
Nice.
They came to me the very first time and I said, well, how much is it going to be for a glass of lemonade? And they said $7. And I said, what? $7? I'm like, that seems a little high to me, but okay. And I was completely wrong. They had a line around their table all day.
Wow.
They were offering $5 refills. And so it was on 4th of July and it was a hot day and people were waiting for their lemonade. So I don't know if you ever made $1,000 a day selling lemonade, but these girls are doing that. So.
Certainly did not, and I'm envious of them. I'd like to meet them and see if they are eligible for hire, is what I
They are hustlers, and you'll see them throughout our program a lot. They do quite a bit with us. So getting that entrepreneur spirit when you started kind of looking at your career path, what were you kind of looking at? Were you looking at, hey, I want to be in a business, or I'm just going to go to college and kind of figure it all out? How did you kind of come up with your system?
Well, I feel like originally I was a college athlete, so it was more along a system approach. I never really thought about entrepreneurialism until I was a little older because I was always on a team. And I always kind of fell into a system thing. So school was 100% for me. I had 0% street smarts, so I had to go get an education. And I did get, 2 master's degrees and a doctorate in pursuit of that. it was a little bit into my 20s, young 20s, where I started my counseling and consultation kind of side hustle, if you will, my own private business. When I started to realize, quite frankly, that I'm the oldest, I want to be in control. I really like the way I do things. And why wouldn't I just, use my work ethic and use these skills that I have in my own business? So it wasn't really, I don't know if I felt like I was an entrepreneur young and I wanted to do things as part of a team and feel a little safer. But it was my early 20s where I really felt that bug and that desire to go off on my own after I was educated and had all those pieces under my belt.
So what I picture is the Peanuts comics. You had a little psychiatry for 5 cents and you were giving people advice. Like,
yeah.
Is that how it started?
I mean, a lot more than 5 cents, right? I'm those great women that you talked about selling the $7 lemonade. But yeah, it was, I had a physical spot. So I was doing the therapy where you think about someone sitting on a couch and working with a therapist. And I was doing a lot of clinical supervision for people. So, new therapists that were coming into the field, a lot of consultation on, I ended up getting into the private equity space in addiction treatment a little later. So helping people run their financials, operationalize their business, lead their teams. It became almost like as I gained more experience and knowledge, I was able to share that through that consultative work.
And so you have this education on helping people to go through their challenges. But did you have the background and do you think your schooling helped you prepare for the business side of it? Like, how am I billing for this? What kind of insurance do I need? What kind of legal protection do I need? Did they kind of go through that stuff in school that kind of gave you that pathway?
I mean, it's so sad to say that no. I mean, the best business leaders I actually had were my peers and some of the business leaders that I built relationships with. I always think of school as like the brain power to be able to go out and get the experiential learning. But for me, it was really friends that owned restaurants, owned bars, owned clinical practices, owned rehabs, that I go get the knowledge from the educational institution. And then I go to this leader and they walk me through a P&L and a financial statement. And, well, Dawn, you can't really keep the lights on if there's no revenue coming in here, right? Like really the basics of this is how a business works. And I did translate that knowledge into private equity, which is a whole different business model. But it was more the peers. I mean, to me, relationships are everything. And the value I got from other leaders, I could not learn in a book.
I hear that a lot from the doctors, the dentists. They go through these schools and they're preparing to be a professional in their field, but there's really no training along the way to say, hey, we need to make sure that the lights stay on and we have buildings to pay for and all that stuff. So it's always good to kind of see how they got that training. A lot of times you just had to jump into a book or you just had to figure it out as you were going.
I think that's what is so special about entrepreneurs and leaders in a way is the ability to take the risk of falling flat on your face to learn it is a really special quality. I mean, I don't want to get all therapeutic into the human ego and the human dynamics, but to not play it safe is a very specific decision that a human makes. And entrepreneurs possess that, right? Where they're willing to take the risk on a great idea and their work ethic and their expertise to not have it all figured out today. I think that is a really important thing. And for me, I really need a lot of those other leaders to give me the street smarts, if you will, the business street smarts to be able to operate, because it was not something I was able to read in a book or do in a, virtual classroom.
So you had this education and you're going down this path. So what kind of changed your focus to kind of go towards the nonprofit world? What led you there?
So ironically, I started out as a therapist in a nonprofit space while I was doing my consulting business. So I had a little bit of experience under my belt. It was a small $20 million a year nonprofit in New Jersey. And I was craving the business side of it. So I took the leap into private equity addiction treatment about 8 years ago. So this is my first real kind of foray back into the nonprofit space since leaving private equity.
Well, first of all, 20 million is not a small nonprofit.
Well, it wasn't the operating budget; it was the total asset base of it, comparatively to some. So
I understand being small, and if I had 20 million to start off on, that's a good thing. So where do you see in your organization now your entrepreneur skills coming in to play? the most?
I think that this is an entrepreneur's dream at Collaboratory, and it's really what got me excited about the roles. So here, the foundation of our work is a community foundation, which means we take charitable dollars in, and then we support our nonprofit partners with funding to do their work. What we're trying to do in an evolved way is to use data and some of the social issues we see, have the nonprofits work together, and then fund those collective projects. It is all about innovation. It's all about trying something outside the box. No day is the same, which as an entrepreneur is exactly what the tail of the tape is. And it really is a lot of risk for a long-term reward, which is changing some of the social outcomes, in the community we serve. So I feel like being an entrepreneur and honestly having that business background as well made this really an ideal landing place, because we're just really trying to solve some issues with a very data-driven, measurable approach.
Do you think that the nonprofit world is kind of stuck in a rut on how they do things? And I'll preface that by I'm a new nonprofit. I've only had it for 2 years. I went through the process of doing grants this last season, and I filled out all the paperwork for 5 grants. And I look at my organization with that entrepreneur idea of like, okay, let's think outside of the box. But when I dive into a grant, I'm giving a box to put myself into to say, hey, this is where I fit in the whole scheme of things. But they don't want to hear innovation. They want to see what I can say for that box. And they'll even require like down to you have 103 characters to tell us that in,
Yep.
So where do you think that they're kind of stuck or for looking at innovation?
Yeah, because I think when I think of the system that's encouraging those types of behaviors, right? If every application for every year of your nonprofit life is telling you what's the head count of humans you served, tell me your mission in 12 characters, it doesn't really encourage people to actually say, okay, the problem I'm solving for is we don't have enough young people entering the business world, and here's how I'm going to innovate to get them there. It's because there's so much volume of nonprofits that the innovation would require a lot more effort, in my opinion, and a lot more, people having to think outside of their own comfort zone. So there's a lot of incredible nonprofits in our region they're all doing great work, right? But I think the idea of doing something different can be very scary when you've been used to doing things the same way over and over again. It's daunting. And just like any behavioral change, it's hard. And I don't think it's as easy for every organization to make that move.
And I get it. You have people that are cutting very large checks to help out organizations, and they want to know that their dollars are being spent the right way. And a lot of times, do they want to take the risk to try something new and something different? And but I'm sure a lot of them are entrepreneurs themselves, and they took a risk on their idea.
Yeah.
So I think trying to figure that out. So what advice would you give to a student that said, hey, this is my path. I want to help out and work in the nonprofit world as an entrepreneur. Where would you tell them to begin? What would you tell them to focus on?
First of all is their why. I think for me, the nonprofit space is very mission driven. And so is a lot of businesses, right? I don't want to say that they're not. But if your why is really, really hyper-focused on helping, homeless individuals access housing, pursue opportunities that are going to be specific to that, especially in the nonprofit space, before you start another 501c3, make sure there's no other organizations that are essentially doing the same work that you could support in a different way or open a fund to support, right? And then just go for it. I think the biggest limitation personally for myself sometimes is, I have oldest child syndrome, and I want, to be safe, and I want to make sure everything's cushy and safe where I land. And I think a lot of risk is what it takes to be an entrepreneur and to go into the space and to trust your own instinct and to just do it. Go for it. If your why is strong and your purpose is there and you feel like you have all of the information you need, then just go all in.
So from a community relationship standpoint and looking at all the issues that are in the area, do you guys focus on pushing college as kind of your number one option, or are they looking at other options for kids like trade school or entrepreneurship as an alternative just to go into college?
Yeah, we definitely are not here to push any sort of 4-year traditional, right, type education. The scholarship, we gave out $1.2 million in scholarships last year, and a lot of them were for older adults re-accessing a trade school and for kids that were going into the trades or going into a business school or a credential or certification. So our dream here is that kids actually pursue their passion, not what society tells them they should be doing to get to the next place. And then we try to scholarship and support around that. So anything. I mean, I would love tons of welders to go through, if someone would have told me I could have been a welder and, make the money that welders make, I might be a welder today, sir, because that was not an option for me. It was go to college and get a degree. So,
And I hear underwater welding actually pays really well.
I mean, it sounds very lucrative and the water is warm. So I think we've missed the boat, but yeah, I have 3 brothers and only one of them went to college. The other 2 are very successful, credentialed and skilled in trades. We have to give kids opportunities and then honestly incentivize them to go pursue those opportunities around their interests, skills, and wants.
So for students, what's the best way for them to know all the communities that are offering scholarships and different programs? How do they even begin that? Like, I know we have Google and that you can plug that in, but going through that process of figuring out, okay, where can I get the resources? Where can I apply? How do I get to that point? Where do you tell kids to go?
School guidance to start, and start at the beginning of the school year, if not the end of this one. We can certainly help here. We have a full-time scholarship coordinator that will help with the FAFSA, right, to get them covered financially, but then open the doors for the scholarships that are available here and other places. But to me, start with the school guidance counselors. They're right there. They, are not doing clinical mental health counseling, right? They're there to support whatever your professional and educational journey is. Get that list and start working it. And, ironically, to come full circle, I got a scholarship to go to college from a newspaper carrying, program. So you never know where scholarship dollars are going to come from or what little experience or what entrepreneurial things you've done are going to help finance where you want to get.
Now, I know that in Florida, we have a huge homeschool coalition that's around, and there's a lot of kids that don't have those guidance counselors. Where do those parents go to look for the opportunities for their kids?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, they could certainly start at the community foundation here. We'll have resources. But any linkage to anyone in the educational space that they have. But the community foundations in your region are a great place to start. The school board foundations are a great place to start. They can always reach out here.
And as a community foundation, what do you think you guys have done that's been like entrepreneurial, outside the box compared to others, organizations out there that's a little different, that you take pride in?
I think the biggest thing is taking the leap of trying to solve social issues through like data and measurement in a way that we serve 5 counties here. So we have data dashboards that we've rolled out. We are funding projects that move the needle. That is not something in this scale that I've seen done anywhere at a community foundation. So, you're plowing the ground in front of you before anyone else and trying to figure it out. And it's been good. It's been exciting. You get kicked in the teeth sometimes, and that's what being an entrepreneur is. But to me, trying something when you know that other things aren't working is what we've tried to do differently here.
Now, I'm going to pitch you an idea, and you tell me what you think on this.
Okay.
So for those newer nonprofits like me that want to get their name out there and kind of get in front of some of these donors, have you guys ever thought of having your own Shark Tank event for the small guys to get in front of the donors and pitch their idea and say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is where we're affecting change in our communities, and giving the smaller guys an opportunity to kind of get a voice. Have you ever thought of that?
Have we thought about it, but we just did a pitch day 2 months ago with women, and we're trying to figure out how to do it on a large scale with other organizations. So yes,
nice.
And yes. And I think this is one of the things in my entrepreneurial leadership mind we need to be better at, right, is making sure that we are for sure a community foundation for all, regardless of operating budget. So I will take your feedback and your thoughts, and I will certainly try to make that happen because it's important to me. I mean, the work you're doing and the work a lot of our nonprofits are doing is very, very important to me. So I don't want you to not have a place at the table.
And we do it as a fun opportunity for the kids to kind of build their confidence and get in front of people. We call them the Biz Kidz pitch competitions. Yeah. And the kids actually get up there, they get to pitch their ideas to the judges, and we get to kind of see how they process that. And then what we teach in our program is celebrate the failures. Like, If it didn't work, okay, let's figure out why it didn't work. Let's adjust things and figure out how to move forward from there. So I think it would be neat to see other nonprofits and giving their pitches to see kind of where they're coming from as well. Awesome. Well, what other new and inventive programs do you guys have coming out, or anything that you want to pitch that you want the community to know about right now?
I mean, nothing new and innovative outside of, we have data dashboards on our websites now that are showing almost the tail of the tape, right? From almost a business case for social issues, how we're measuring, what we're trying to impact. So check those out. We are finalizing our scholarship distribution for this year. So everyone that's listening, pay attention. By November, we will have the scholarship process open again. And our goal is not only to get, 300 applicant scholarships, but to award way more than $1.2 million, right? Which is where we were at last year. And my third pitch is, if you haven't been to the beautiful space at downtown Fort Myers where this building sits, please come and check out Collaboratory, because it really is a metaphor for the place-based making work that we're doing, and it's open and free to the entire public. So come on through.
That's awesome. What advice would you give parents? Let's kind of talk to the parents of, like, you have an entrepreneur kid that kind of has this dream. Where would you tell them to get plugged in or kind of focus on?
Such a good question. I mean, where their interests lie is like what's coming to my head, just free thought. I don't, obviously Biz Kidz and other great spots that are doing, there's FGCU does some great entrepreneurial work, but if someone is interested in being, a tech startup person, I get a lot of calls about this, any groups that are doing, tech work, or a community where they can really foster that entrepreneurial spirit, a 4-year traditional degree is not for everyone anymore. And we're learning that, very clearly. So just foster that love for whatever that topic is and get them plugged in communities where they can really be inspired and feel a sense of togetherness with similar people.
One of the reasons I got into this or doing this for the kids is I was a dyslexic kid, and my 3rd grade teacher actually told my parents I would never graduate high school. And so, do you know of any programs that are good for kids with learning disabilities like dyslexia or ADHD? Have you seen organizations that are kind of focusing on that as kind of their main focus?
I haven't. I mean, I know a couple organizations doing things on the spectrum, right, with autism and Asperger's and IDD. I don't actually know of any specific programs with those as their priority, but I'll check into it.
Yeah, we're always looking to how we can connect, because we know that the kids that are entrepreneurs do have a lot of those traits, being dyslexic and ADHD, because we're hard to focus. And what we had to learn as a dyslexic is workarounds. Like, okay, I can't do it the traditional way. I can't memorize for a test. I have a hard time doing that. So I always had to find a different way to accomplish the goal. Right. And so I think that's what gives me my entrepreneur spirit, because I'm always looking at things a little bit different. So we're always looking for opportunities to connect with other organizations and especially connect with kids that have dyslexia and ADHD that parents think, hey, they're not really focused. Probably the number one thing I was told as a kid is you're lazy and you're not trying.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely going to ask my team about some recommendations, because I'm sure they exist, but you're right. A lot of my friends, especially big business people that I know, had dyslexia or ADHD growing up. Like that was because you're right. They're looking for a workaround and what's going to fit their skill set, and it's not sitting in front of a book. So I'm gonna send some over your way when I come up with them, because there have to be a few that would be good partners.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, Dawn, to kind of give us a feedback of entrepreneurship in the nonprofit world. If you want to get your kids involved with the Biz Kidz, go to www.bizkidzusa.org and you can get your kids connected with us. We do an online training program, so you don't have to be in Southwest Florida. It's open to all kids that can get the training, get the mentorship. And what we try to do is inspire kids to get out there, try, make the first dollar for something they've created, and that gives them the motivation. So any final words, Dawn?
Nope. Go out there and get it, kids. Make it happen.
All right. Well, thank you for being here, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Biz Kidz Podcast.